Hi, I'm Bonnie, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's nice to see everybody here, friends and people I haven't met yet that would be friends if I met you. That would be nice. Okay, well, we're supposed to be talking about what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. I will tell you that due to Talo, I'm a minister now, so I want a lot of respect and everything.
And she married.
Well, all right, yeah. Well, actually, it wasn't Taylo's fault. It was another couple that I've known for many, many years who called me up when my partner Bill was taking a nap, and they said, we've decided you're going to marry. We want to get married. I'm lovely. That's wonderful. Y'all know Bill and Ottman and Bill O and Teresa. So that's great. And they said, well, we want you to marry us. And I said, I can't. I'm not a minister. Oh, you can do that online. I'm like, Lord, girl. And she's like, no, we've decided that. So she says, get online and get that done because we want you to marry. So I go online, and now, they turn you into a minister for $35. This is great. So Bill's asleep, so he wakes up, comes out of his nap, and I said, listen, you can't afford to sleep in this house. Things move really fast. When you went to bed, I was Bonnie Corcoran. You woke up, it's Reverend Corcoran to you. Yeah. So, yeah. And then I moved on with her, and I have since retired as a minister. I just want to pass that word on. What it was like. Well, it is 4th of July, so I was thinking about that. And I have been, I came in 1974, and I'm really, really old. And so I've been sober 45 years. And the deal being that I've been sober, I got sober at 32. So I've been sober a lot longer than I was drunk. I was actually drunk, and I'm Irish, so it doesn't take long for those of us who are Irish. 12 years that were pretty hellish, to be honest with you. So I thought I'd kind of do it in bursts, do it the 4th of July, of memory. Vignettes of some of the things that I remember, and I would like to have some of those vignettes of what it's been like for me sober. So, the vignettes of me drinking, it's a great time. I had a wonderful time about the first 5 years. I had very good health, and so I could drink everybody under the table, and I had a very high tolerance for alcohol, which I thought was an asset. Turned out means you're drunk from birth. I didn't know that. So within about 5 years, I was starting to go down the tube and drinking way too much and beginning to go into blackouts. And so in that 5-year period, I got married at 20. I really married a drunk. I was a teetotaler before I got married because I was afraid to be out of control of my life. My life was unpleasant, and so I dared not be out of control. And so when I married Dick, I tried to control Dick. That just didn't work. And so as a result, he said the one thing when he got sober, he said the one thing that he knew I would never do after the upbringing I had was go home to Mama. So once we were out in California, I was stuck with him. So he was drinking like a fish, and as much as we could afford, which was only beer really back then. He was a Marine. Anyhow, the deal being that I couldn't control him, so I did what any intelligent person would do, and I joined him. And I thought, well, if I can't control you, if you're going to have fun, I'm going to have more fun, and you can worry about how we're going to get home. So that's kind of how that went. It went great for a long time. When it turned on me, one of the vignettes I have is my son is about 5 years old, and Dick and I have, this was back when I was still living back in Gulfport. Dick was overseas. And so I'm in Gulfport, and the kid was just turned 5 years old. And so one of my girlfriends that lived next door to me, she was a drunk too, and that's why we enjoyed each other. So she came over and we drank together, and I had a big party with impressing my aunts who were visiting from the north, and I had a lot of leftover shrimp. So we were getting rid of the shrimp and beer while we were at it. So we had a lot of beer. Can't drink around my aunts, so they're gone. Let's have a party. So she brought her husband over, who was a pianist at a bar, so you can tell the people I hung out with, and then Pearl. And she was Portuguese. I will tell you, she eventually ended up with us in recovery. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, she comes over and we proceed to drink and eat shrimp. And eventually, Scott, because he wasn't as strong as us, passed out, and she dragged him home. It was only next door, so she really literally dragged the guy home. I didn't really worry about it. I went to bed and passed out. This is the vignette. The vignette is In the middle of the night, she wakes up with anaphylactic shock because she suddenly had a horrible reaction to the shrimp. It's beginning to swell her throat and her nose, and she can't breathe. And she comes over. She can't get Scott up because he's passed out. She comes over to get me up. I am passed out. She can't wake me up. Gets my son to go in. This 5-year-old kid trying to get me awake, and they couldn't get me awake. Okay, none. And she finally went back and got Scott up. By the grace of God, she's still with us today, and he got her to the hospital in time before she died. Now, do you think when you woke up on the morning after the night before and your kid said, "We tried to get you up, Mommy, and we couldn't get you up," that I would think, this kid's all alone, his father's overseas, and I was drunk, right? Do you think I would stop drinking? I didn't stop drinking. Let's do another vignette. Richard's 6 years old. I guess I go by this because I so much wanted to be a great mother. So now Richard's 6 years old, and it's his first day of school, the night before his first day of school. And we're having a party at my house because that's pretty much what we did all the time. And it was, I guess, Sunday night left over from Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And so we're still drinking. And I wake up with my next-door neighbor, who we were going to bring the kids together. She had a kid my age, to school. Except I'm in my best pajamas, dressed, in good clothes. I'm passed out on the couch. And I don't have the kid ready, nothing's ready. And so I'm getting up and grabbing the kid out of bed and yelling at him, "Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up," to get him dressed so he could go with her, because I would not have been able to take that child to school for his first day of school. A little bit later in that year, perhaps, Dick and I had a party at the house. We had a lot of people over. I decided I wanted to take a friend to the beach. I love to drink and drive. I thought, I was the Indianapolis speed queen when I was drinking. We lived on the base. We were there 20 miles from Morehead City, so we were down at Cherry Point. So all you had to do, if you had any sense, is get in your car, go up to the top of the base, the entrance, and go to the right, and you drive 20 miles and you're at the beach. That works. Or you could go down to the end of the street, which was a dead end, turn left, and go straight into a ditch. So I'm going to take my girlfriend to the beach. Okay? Guess where I ended up? So I come back home, and I say, I need somebody to help me get my car out of the ditch, And Dick's like, he's not in a good mood. He was drunk too, but anyhow, he's not in a good mood. Leave it, he says. Well, I didn't even care about him. There was bigger guys, and they had bigger cars. I needed a big guy with a big car. So I went up to one of the big guys with a big car and said, "Honey, I need you to help me." And, I could do that back in those days. I didn't look as bad as I do now. And so he said, "Sure." And so he went over, to the ditch to help me get my car out. And so now we have 2 cars in the ditch because he was feeling okay with either. And so I go back home, and I'm in a bad mood, and Dick's yelling at me about, whatever. Who knows, because I was in a blackout, sort of, kind of, because I have vague memories of that night. And everybody says that I started this, but I wouldn't. At Dick, like I attacked him or something physically. And he decked me because, it wasn't right here, down I went. Well, I got to tell you what, I'm not living with somebody who's beating me up. So I leave. Now, that was back in the days of mini skirts, and we had been at a party at the club that day. So I have a mini skirt on. I got heels like up to here, okay? And I'm leaving home, all right? But I have to go and tell my son goodbye. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. And I have to go tell him goodbye because Mommy will be back. Mommy is leaving Daddy. I'm laughing, but I'm not. Mommy's leaving Daddy, and so Mama's going to be back. And so this little first grader gets up and says to me, "All right, but you're probably going to need some money." And he had a little sack of pennies. See, he was the only adult in the house most of the time. That's kind of what my drinking was like. I let him have the money. I said, "Never mind, Mommy can take care of Mommy. I can always get somebody to get me a drink." And I left in my heels with no car. And I wandered a bit out in the neighborhood. God only knows where I ended up. But anyhow, I find myself on this lot, corner lot, these people's house, and I'm exhausted. It's been a long day, I'll tell you what. And so I just lay down, and I'm going to have a good cry. And I'm right in the middle of a cry, and I don't cry much. Well, I did cry a lot more when I was drinking, but I mean, even then, I didn't cry that much. So this lady comes out. Finally, I get into a good cry and interrupts me, wants to know what's wrong. So, I'm irritated about that. Nothing, I said. Nothing. And she goes, well, dear, would you mind crying on somebody else's lawn? Because it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and we have to go to work. So I stood up, okay, in the grass with the high heels, stumbled off and went home and passed out on the couch. I found back where we were. So that was me. That was just a very embarrassing moment, because you can picture in the morning, on the morning after the night before, and you got to get up. There's 2 cars in the ditch. One of them is definitely yours, okay? There's been a party at your house, and somebody, you're not sure who it is, knows that you were wandering around in, the middle of the night laying on their lawn. I don't know whose lawn it was. To this day, I just peeked out the blinds, didn't go out the rest of the day. Okay, so you'd think I'd quit drinking. Next vignette, I've given up on life, I've given up on me, and I finally went and we were Catholic. We really didn't do God particularly, but we were Catholic. So, we had a Bible, because you had to have a Bible, so in case God showed up, knocked on your door and said, do you have a Bible in there? You go, just wait right here. Yeah, we have one. Go find it, dig it out, dust it off, bring it and show it to him. Yeah, we got one. Just never read it, didn't pray. Figured best not to pray for somebody like me, because then God would go, oh, there you are, and been looking all over for you, squish. So I didn't pray. I didn't bring attention to myself. Anyhow, so now I'm at the end of my rope. I'm 27 years old, and I'm thinking I can't take this anymore. I won't go into some of the more personal vignettes, okay? But they weren't pretty, and I was all over the place. I was not somebody who stayed home or stayed to myself, okay? So I was out running the roads. And as a result, I'd done a lot of things that were way against my ethics and my morals. And as a result, I'm now at the end of my rope, and I'm thinking I can't take anymore. So I went and got the Bible. Don't ask me why, but I did. And I didn't want anybody to see me do this, because I was afraid somebody would think I was a religious fanatic. So I just went into the bathroom and shut the door and opened the Bible, for an answer. And the answer was, what I opened it to was Jesus saying, be perfect even as my heavenly Father is perfect. So I'm like, good Lord have mercy, okay? So, I'm in the bathroom. I've got to do something about my life, and I'm really thinking this through. It took me about 2 hours in the bathroom, I can tell you this, where I fought City Hall about, I don't know if I can pull this off, because in my family, a lot of people live to be about 104, and I'm only 27. I don't know if I can pull this off. But, what's my options? My options are my life is over, I can't stand it anymore, I've got to have my sins forgiven, I've got to do this, okay? So I said, all right. Finally, I came out. Now, one of the things about us drunks is we have a lot of willpower. I want to tell you that. Hey, Tim, I have a lot of willpower. So do you. So, I come out of there, and I love everybody. I am perfect. I want you to know I'm perfect. I really was. Inside and out. Just, I'm beginning a whole new life. All that other stuff it's clean, baby. I am free. I'm free. So I came out and being perfect, and I was really perfect for about 6 weeks. I want to tell you something, that it was a process. What happens when you're perfect is other people are not perfect. And people take advantage of your perfection. And they have you doing things for them, smiling sweetly, even when you don't want to. But you remember, you're not going to get upset because you're perfect. So I was being extremely perfect, so I didn't get upset. When I started to get a little annoyed, I reminded myself that we have many, many years left to go, and that we were not going to screw this up in just a few weeks, all right? So it built in me the fact that people were taking advantage of me in my perfection and sanctity. And finally, we had a great thing in our family. We're always saying, while you're up, to whatever family member managed to be stupid enough to stand up, will you get me a drink of water, will you get me a cup of coffee, blah, blah, blah. It was our favorite thing to say to each other. So I had felt really taken advantage of that particular day. And I'd done, finally sat down after doing all the dishes and cooking all the food, blah, 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 and working. And so I sat down. And I get back up for something, and Dick said, hey, while you're up, oh, my God. I went on him like white on rice, baby. just screaming, oral diarrhea. What, you SOB, blah, 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 do everything for you, blah, 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 why don't you ever wait on your self, blah, 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 blah. It was just like this tirade. And when I was finally ran down, when I was finally done, Dick looked at me and he goes, all I said was, could you get me a cup of coffee? You could have just said no. And he looked at me and he said, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
And you know what? I thought, yeah, I am. I'm crazy. And I went back in that bathroom and I shut the door and I said, let me tell you something, buddy. Nobody could live like that. Nobody could live like that. I give up. If I'm going to go to hell, I'm going to have a good time going there. And I'll see you. And I imagine you're living all alone, unless Mother Teresa is going to join you. But up till then, I don't know anybody else who would be hanging out with you. All my friends are going to be where I'm at, because nobody could do that. And I gave up on God. Done. Came out of that bathroom, loaded for bear. Next vignette, I'm 28 years old. I have seriously attempted suicide. I'm in a hospital. I'm in a coma for 3 days. When I do come to, my hands are tied down, my feet are tied down, I can't move. And I hear, you tried to kill yourself. And I'm thinking to myself, and I was furious. I was thinking, yeah, I know that. And I turned to myself, I said, you can't even do that right. You can't even do that right. What the hell's the matter with you? And so I came to, the psychiatrist comes in, why did you do that? What a stupid question. Because I wanted to die, I said to him rudely. And then I realized they were getting ready to send me to Butner, I think, or wherever it was, Cherry Hospital, someplace like that. So I thought, you better get nice quick. So I got nice quickly and was just very nice and very polite. Oh, I feel so much better now. None of that was true. None of it was true. Got out of there, got home, and drank for 4 more years. So you would think somewhere along the line it would have occurred to me. It never occurred to me that I was an alcoholic. It did occur to me that I was crazy. And that's why I was afraid to go talk to anybody. Because I thought if they ever find out who I am, they'll put me away for good. But I did not understand I had alcoholism. I thought alcohol fixed it. My God, it could at least stop the pain, the mental pain, the anguish, the whole 9 yards, the loneliness when I was a young person, when I first got married. It made you hail fellow well met. It took you away from wallflower. Instead of holding up the wall, you're now with the gang. All of those things. This was the only panacea I had. How could I give that up? Now Dick has finally gone overseas. We're married 11 years. I despise Dick. He's a lousy drunk, blah, blah, blah. And so I can't wait to get away from him. And he's gone overseas. And I'm having an affair with someone else who is also married. But I like that because then I don't have to bring him home. We go have fun and then you go home to your wife and let her fix your dinner and breakfast and all those things. So we're having a mad, passionate affair. And I write Dick and tell him, he writes me and he says that he was going to, change. He always said that. And I said, never mind. No, don't bother. I want a divorce. When you get home, I want a divorce. Now, that's a bad thing to do for a Catholic, but I didn't care. See, that was at the end of my rope. Because, if you divorce as a Catholic, you go to hell. Don't pass go. Don't get you $200. But I didn't care any of that jazz anyhow. I wanted out. And so, as a result, he writes a little bit later and says he has now joined AA. That is just so underhanded. And he's now, picked up a chip and he's doing all this and blah, blah, blah. And then I might want to join Al-Anon. And I said, I don't join ladies' clubs. I never joined a society in college, and I don't join ladies' clubs. I don't want any part of Al-Anon, okay? So he said, well, it's for friends and family of alcoholics. And I'm thinking, I'm not your friend. Lord have mercy. You don't want me for a friend. So anyhow, I did tell him it was somebody else. He stayed sober. He didn't get drunk over that. He came home, and I was watching him. He moved back in with me, but I was watching this and just waiting for him to get drunk. I knew he would, Put the guy on the back burner. I really cared about this other fellow, and I think he did me. So anyhow, put him on the back burner, side burner, whatever you want to call it. But I wasn't happy, and poor Dick wasn't happy. And finally I asked him to move out, and he did. And then I knew he would get drunk, and he didn't. He went and hung out with you guys, probably had talked about me, don't you imagine? That's what I figured. Figured it was all about me. Figured he was all talking about me. So anyhow, he got custody of nothing, and I got custody of the kid and the dog and the house and all that, and he's living in a trailer, and he's staying sober. He's hanging out with his AA friends, and he's doing great. He starts to look better and better. I'm back with my buddy, and we're running the roads, and we're drinking and, raising hell. And I can tell my drinking is getting worse and worse and worse. And as a result, finally, Dick would have these little vignettes of, listen. Where he learned that is probably from y'all. Listen, we've got a child that we have in common. Nobody will ever love Richard the way we love Richard. Therefore, you might want to go to some meetings, or at least get to know me sober. Like see what I'm doing, and maybe have dinner with me, or get to know me sober. Because I'm not who I was. And I'm thinking, oh yes, you are. You're just waiting to go get drunk. But I did, because I thought, yeah, he's right. We're going to have to see each other at weddings, funerals, all those different things. Graduations, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why I added funerals, hopefully not funerals. But anyhow, graduations, all that stuff for a kid. And so we need to be somewhat friends. So I went along with that. And he dragged me to a couple of meetings. Didn't drag me, but we would be having a nice dinner somewhere nice. And he'd say, there's a meeting over here. I wonder if you'd go with me. It's a speaker meeting. You can go. And I got to tell you what, there weren't very many women back then, but I identified with some of these guys. I didn't identify with Al-Anon people, I identified with these guys. And that made me uncomfortable. So I decided that I would go with them a few times, and it began to have a little bit of effect on me. What happened was Dick got a new carbon Gia, and he got some clothes, and he looked great, and I looked kind of put up, hard. Rode hard, put up wet. I didn't look so great. So as a result, I'm thinking, maybe I should go back to him. He had his first AA birthday he had at the house. And there were 75 people that came to celebrate Dick's first birthday at our house. Now, I didn't know how to handle any of you weirdos, and so I didn't know what to do. I was always great for fixing a lot of food. We never ate it, we always drank, but I always fixed it. Hostess was the mostest, ha-ha, you should have seen me as a hostess, never mind. But anyhow, I had all this food. I didn't eat food, but I wanted you to have it. So this time, I fixed the same thing, a lot of food, and they came in and ate it, okay? And my son, who was, 10 at the time, I guess, 8, when his fathers got sober, he's handing out hors d'oeuvres, and he says, I like these people, they eat. So anyhow, as a result, I was impressed by that. I was impressed by the fact there were 75 people. There were no people left over at the house the next morning, stuck in the bathroom where you can't get in. Nobody had puked in the closet. It was just really a nice party overall. Nobody went home with the wrong person, blah, blah, blah. So this was a different kind of party than we normally threw. And I was impressed. And you remembered all the jokes. Isn't that interesting? So as a result, I was kind of interested. And I thought, look, your life's kind of going down the tube. Well, finally, I thought about it, and I thought, okay, we'll move in together. I'll go back with him. He'd been a year sober. We'll try this. I told my buddy, can't do this. I need to go back. I think that's what I should do. He's the father of the child. You've got kids. So we all returned to our respective wives and so forth and husbands. And so now I'm living with him for a year, and I go to Al-Anon because I don't want to stop drinking. I like Al-Anon because you can work the steps and drink, which is really nice. And also kind of look at these women and think, I wonder if you broads ever picked up a drink. So, but some of them ended up in AA with me. And a lot of the Al-Anons were mad at me. I lured these people in to stop drinking. But what I would do is, like you go to an Al-Anon meeting, so you go to certain Al-Anon meetings, but in between I'd go over with my girlfriends, my old drinking buddies, go over her house after work, and we'd have 2 tall ones, and then I'd go home. I mean, I'm talking beer. And then I'd go home, and I'd wish that I could have more. That's all it took was 2 16-ounce cans of beer. And now I want more beer. And so I want the kid to disappear, and I want Dick to disappear, and I want it to be over because I want to go back out and drink. I don't want to be happy. And I don't, and I didn't get the whole spiritual part of it at all. And I don't want to do this anymore. As soon as I had anything to drink. But I kept doing it, kept going to Al-Anon, and made this commitment, and everybody's talking about serenity. Those Al-Anons, man, they're just talking about serenity all the time. And I'm like, listen, I'm fairly intelligent. I only have so much time in my life. Tell me what serenity is. I'll go home and do it. And then I don't have to keep coming back here. Just keep coming back. It's disgusting. So anyhow, I'd go try to look up, define serenity. I didn't have any. I knew that much. Anyhow. So I went. I went out of obligation. I went because I was Dick's wife. I was a real Al-Anon. I could talk about Dick, Tim. Now I got to tell you, I'm not putting down Al-Anon. You know what Al-Anon taught me? How to let go of everybody else and start focusing on Bonnie. It snuck up on me. And even though I'm drinking, in between, I'm not drinking like I was, because the opportunity isn't there, and I'm thinking a lot more than I was thinking. And finally, it's Dick's second birthday coming up, and as a result, again, there's going to be a big crew at the house. But this time, a couple nights beforehand, my girlfriend Pearl, the one that I, had so much fun with back in Gulfport, she shows up to visit. She got a new husband because the other one probably couldn't keep up with her. But anyhow, this guy is pretty good, easy-going guy because he was a dancer on Broadway. And he's from Norway. So he doesn't speak much English either, so that worked. And so anyhow, we decide that we need to take Tour and Pearl and I out for a nice day for a few beers at a bar, due to the fact that Dick is now in AA, and he thinks that she should do something about her drinking, which is such an insult, to say about my friend. So as a result, in order for her not to put up with that, the goody two-shoes stuff, I took her out for a drink. We were there 9 hours at the bar. Pretty much can tell you that. And as a result, I was pretty well tanked. Tour just sat there. I think he might have had 3 drinks. I don't know how he stood it. I guess that was all that ballet discipline he had, because he sat there and drove us home. I don't know how he did it. Anyhow, Pearl and I come in, and we were loaded for beer. We got a Portuguese and an Irish, both of us drunk. Okay? And Dick's in the house. I think he was fixing coffee or something in the kitchen. We had a big old kitchen. And I'm like, oh, look at the goody two-shoes, it's going to try this. Jeez. So he, in order to get the hell away from me, goes in to our son's room because he thinks, now remember, I've been to Al-Anon now. I got something under my belt, right? He thinks I'm going to leave him alone and not bother the child, okay? But of course not. I go, he's going to go talk about me to the kids. So Pearl says, well, I'll handle that. And she heads toward the bedroom door where the kid is. And I guess she started to push it open, so Dick pushed it shut. And she fell back because she wasn't really steady on her feet right then. And I went, did he push you? Oh, here we go. You know what he did? He came out the bedroom door, and he got in his car, and he drove over to his nearest AA friends and stayed the night. That's what he did. Highly recommend it if you got a bunch of drunks at your house. So as a result, again, I'm passed out in my best pajamas on the couch when he comes home, and they're rolling around making coffee in the kitchen, and I'm ready for bear, you see. I'm going to get up and say, if it wasn't for you being so, sure that Pearl needed to do something about her drinking, I wouldn't I wouldn't have had to go drink. It's the reason we couldn't have a couple of drinks in the house is because of you, right? I was ready. He didn't say anything. He said, hi, you want a cup of coffee? I felt about that big. I said, yeah. And I thought, you can't keep this up. And then he had his party. And the woman that spoke, Dick worked in the field of alcoholism addiction when he was in the Marine Corps after he got sober, and he was now doing that outside, working for the government, for the Navy. And the woman that worked with him, Marge Henderson, since Pappenfuse initially, that was her name, got up and spoke at his second birthday party. And I never believed in love. I had never experienced love. I never met love. If he wanted to hug me, I thought that was a 4-letter, that love thing was a 4-letter word that you use to manipulate people. I didn't like people touching me. I'm like, stay away. It's very defensive. And now I'm listening to this lady. People had said, I love you. I'm like, that's nice. But when Marge got up and talked about love, you knew, she knew what she was talking about. And she's talking about love in this room and the aura of, love in an AA meeting. And she said, you can cut it with a knife. It's so thick. It's beautiful. And I thought, I don't know if other people have that real stuff, but she has it. I knew it. And I wanted what she had. And I went up to her and I said, listen, will you, if I get sober, will you be my sponsor? And she said, well, I'm 45 minutes away from you, which is, back in those days, it was a long-distance phone call, long drive. She lived in Jacksonville. I said, you know what, I used to go down to Jacksonville, get drunk all the time. I guess I can go that far to stay sober. I want to get sober. I thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And made a decision to stay sober. Same day as Dick's second birthday. So he always had 2 more years sobriety than I did, till he died sober. And after he died with 21 years, and so once I had 22 years, you believe, I said to him, I got more sobriety than you do now, buddy. And he came back just as clear as I'm talking to you and said, not unless you die sober, honey. That's what I said. It's the truth. So, vignettes about sobriety. Let me give you some sobriety vignettes. All right. My mother, who was a harridan and a horrible person to live with, etc., and had been terrible to me growing up, is now living in a neighborhood. She lived all alone. I'm illegitimate. She got thrown out of her family. That's why she turned on the world. But anyhow, she was born in 1900 and had me at the age of 41. That was just not a good time in the world. So anyhow, she is now living all alone down in Florida, and her neighborhood has suddenly become a mixed neighborhood, and it happened so quickly that the people were buying it, specs people buying it, and then filling it with people who were on welfare and that stuff to get rid of the neighborhood, clear the neighborhood, and then they were going to go sell everything. That's how they did it back then. So my mother was extremely prejudiced. I never was, but she was. And as a result, she was telling me, how scary it was down there. And I said, well, you need to move out. So, Dick and I got her a place down the Gulfport, got her a nice little apartment. We moved her out, and she hadn't sold the house or anything, but I figured we'd get that done. We go back home, and she beat us home. She went back to her house, Within 2 days, she was back at her own house. So, of course, I'm mad. But I'm really trying now to try to work this program. And so as a result, I said, well, I hope you do something. I started praying about it. Well, she called me, and she suddenly had been knocked down at the bottom of her stairs by some guy who knocked her teeth out, blah, blah, blah. This is what happened. Because, see, my idea had been to get her out of there, right? And then she said to me, and the neighbors immediately surrounded her. And there was one lady next door to her that was a nurse, and she really helped her, and she said, they're so nice. Everybody here is so nice. All of them were black people. Guess what? Frances found out that we're all the same. And she came to really appreciate that. And I said to God, you know what you're doing. I'm going to leave you alone, let you handle this away. You know what? If she does die with somebody knocking her down, okay, what she'll learn in her own head, okay, is her prejudice, our anger, creates anger, right? So it's not up to me. It's what you learn and you get to the other side, and you're asked, so how'd it go? What'd you learn? Well, I learned I don't want to be like that anymore, maybe. Good, that's a great thing to learn. Neat, so you can come back with new info. Like me, I've learned I don't want to drink anymore. I ain't coming back drunk this time around, next time. Anyhow, the point being that, so I gave it up. I just really did a let go and let God on that. I said to God, well, you'll have her, if you need her to come up here and for us to take care of her, you'll have her come up. And guess what? She called me about another 2 weeks later. She found out she had cancer. She thought she had cancer. And so she was ready to move. So she came up. She was 76, 2 years younger than I am now. Old lady, let me tell you. 76 years old, and, well, I'm not quite 78, but I'm working on it. And anyhow, so she kind of did her best to sort of fit into our family in a way. She was difficult and not so difficult. But what I remember is when it would get difficult being around her, I would go and talk to my friends, and we'd talk about it, my AA friends, and they'd get me laughing about whatever. And then I could go home and do it some more, Now, I go to this retreat, and I'm newly sober, but one of the girls had come back from that retreat, and she was lit up like a Christmas tree. And she said, I went up to this retreat, and it just, it just changed the way I feel about things. And she was lit up. And I wanted that. I wanted that for me. And so I said to her, where did you go? And she went up to the Outer Banks. It was about a 4-hour drive for us. Again, I didn't hang out with women, and pretty much all I hang out with is women, but anyhow, I got kind of a mix of people. But anyhow, the point was, there were going to be 150 women at this retreat. Is that scary or what? Okay, it was for me. But because I wanted what she had, I was someone who never followed through with anything. I did follow through. I found out how she got there, who you had to sign up with, blah, blah, blah. And I decided I'm going to go there because maybe the answer is there for me. I don't get this God thing, but maybe the answer is there for me. So I decided I'm going to go up and I'm going to find out how to, find the answer. And I brought 3 other women with me as hench people for protection, okay? And we get up there, and I want to, we're hanging out together, but I don't want to hang out with them when we get there because they don't have the answer, because if they did, I wouldn't have had to drive 4 hours to get to somebody who does have the answer, right? Okay. So we go in, and after the first conference, we go to sit down at these little conference tables, these little 4 tables for 4, and this lady comes up, the 2 of the Havelock girls are sitting there at the table with me, which I really don't want, but I'm trying to be polite so I don't tell them get up and leave, make room for people I don't know. Anyhow, this lady comes up, and she's real gentle and sweet, and she goes, is anybody using this chair? Well, Marion, who was one of us, who's there at the table, who's really flowery and easygoing, goes, no, sit down, like it was an order. And it shocked the lady, so she sat down. She was going to use it to take it someplace else, but she's afraid now, so she sat at the table. So anyhow, the lady starts telling us about the fact that someone, some woman had a major affair with her husband and what it had done to her and the pain she was going through. And the eyes of her were just awful, really, really sad. And I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, I don't want to hear this. This is not what I want to hear. So I finally said, to this God I didn't understand, if it was alive, I said, well, I don't know what you want me to say to her, what do you want to do? You want me to say I've done that to somebody else? What? And so I look around to the other girls to pop in. They'd gotten up and left. Now it's me and her. So I got serious with God and said, all right, listen, because I couldn't stand her pain. She had the eyes of Christ, truthfully. And I said to God, listen, if you got something you want to say to her, you better say it through me, because you better do the same, because I don't know what to say, really. Whatever you want me to say, I'll say. So I said something to that lady, and I have no idea to this day what I said to that lady, but I want to tell you, all the pain went from her face. And she said, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And she got up and hugged me. And all I could think of was that I just wanted to get away from her and get alone and be with God. I felt so sick of me. And so I hugged her back, and then she went her way, and I went my way. And I went up to Prairie Tuck 6, which was the little cabin I was staying in. And for the first time in my life, except when I was in church where you had to kneel down, I knelt down. And I said to God, I'm so sick of me. Empty me of me and fill me up with you. And he did. It was just amazing. I just had this unbelievable, all I can tell you is like liquid golden love that just filled me and has changed me. It changed me. I've never been the same for 45 years. I was filled with love, immense, immense amounts of love. And I never would have in my life dreamed that happened to me, would happen to me. But it happened to me. And then I knew what God was. And I knew that I loved people. And I came back loving people. That lasted for a long, long time, and then you get irritable about something, but it's still there. It's built. This is the neat thing about staying sober. It builds. I love better today than I did back then. That's really true. That is such a cool thing to know that just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I can say, like Marge did, I really love you all deeply, Would do anything for any of you. That's the truth, Jonathan. I mean it. So the point being that, I was listening to, then I have God in my life. Now I'm madly in love with God, okay? So I was listening to Charles Stanley on the radio, and he is a Baptist minister, but he's also he's a biblical scholar, brilliant man. And so he was talking about how so much gets lost in the translation as we go along, with this Bible. You start in the Greek and the Aramaic, and then you go to Latin and the Roman and blah, 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 and you lose translation. He's like, for instance, he says, take that part about be perfect, even as my heavenly Father is perfect. I went, yeah, let's take that. Well, it ruined my life, about killed me. So I'm thinking, yeah, what? He's got my attention. And he said, what Jesus actually said, when he was talking about that, he said, fulfill your purpose. He said the word was teleos, it was Greek. It was Greek, and it was fulfill your purpose, even as my heavenly Father has fulfilled his. And he said, and then, it went to the Vulgate, it went to Latin, okay, because of the Romans getting involved. And so they didn't have a word like teleos, fulfill your purpose, but they had two words, pecto, meaning work, and per, meaning through. So, fecto, meaning work, and per. So it became perfecto. And I've had 4 years Latin, so I know that's true. I'm like, yeah, okay. But then when it went to, just kind of Middle English, we changed it to one word, perfect. And then we turned it into some Disneyland weirdo word, in which we believe anybody who's perfect was like I was trying to be as I came out of that bathroom, always laughing, never upset, blah, blah, blah. Now, that was not the guy that talked about it. Jesus himself would get slightly upset. I don't know if you remember any of his stories, but, he was trying to tell everybody about love, and people were in the temple selling pigeons, 2 for $1. All you got to do is slaughter them, and now, the big kahuna is like, oh, I love blood on pigeons, so now you're forgiven. He's saying it's not by the law, it's by love. Forget about this. Love one another. Love yourselves. He says love. So when it just frustrated him, he wasn't Irish, but he got frustrated, and he picks up a big whip thing, and he goes, get out of my father's house. So this is not, smiling sweetly, said, would everybody please leave? And please take your pigeons and wipe up the blood. I hear some fantastic, or I'll get it, don't worry. No, that's not what it means. It means fulfill your purpose. Okay, so I knew I'm in AA. What's my primary purpose? Stay, achieve sobriety and help stay sober and help other people achieve sobriety. So if I'm doing that, if I'm passing it on, I'm doing that. I'm doing what he asked me to do when I was 27 years old, holed up in that bathroom. How about that? Amazing, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? So there you go. So there's a vignette. So then one of my girlfriends asked me one time to take her to the hospital, and we only had one car, so I borrowed the car from Dick, and I took her. She only had one. We were poor back then. So I took her to the hospital, and I forgot. I'm a reader. I've got to do something with my brain constantly, all the time. So I didn't bring a book with me. I just didn't think about it. I'm also ADD, so I forgot. So now I'm sitting in this, this is in the 70s. I'm sitting in this little plastic chair in the old Naval Hospital, big high ceilings, and I'm waiting for her, and I don't have anything to read, and I don't have anything to do. So I'm thinking, well, what are you going to do? While you're just sitting here doing nothing. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't you have this meditation in which, you're out in, like you're on the outskirts of heaven. I have a pretty good imagination, right? So you're on the outskirts of heaven, and there's all these flowers. And you gather up all these flowers, until you have a nice bouquet. This will be the meditation. And then when you get enough flowers and you like the bouquet, you go and knock on the door, the big heavenly door. And when Jesus answers the door, you hand him the flowers, and then you can go have a cigarette. Doesn't that sound like a good meditation? I thought it sounded like a great meditation because that's me. So I said, okay, that sounds good. So that's what I did. I sat there. I didn't close my eyes because I'm too self-conscious at that point in time in my life. But I just sat there and I went inside of me, and you couldn't tell I wasn't there with you. And I picked flowers, okay? And I think my eyes did kind of close because I was picking the flowers, and I had a nice, bunch. And I pictured, now I'm doing this all in my imagination. I know I'm imagining it. And so here's this, imaginating it. And so here is this big, huge door. And I go and knock on the door, I'm ready to give the flowers. And the door opens, and this light engulfs me, and I'm out of my body. And I'm on the ceiling of the hospital. And you'd think that would be really, really, really scary. But it wasn't. I went, damn, wow. I don't know if I said damn or not, probably. But I was like, wow, I have never felt such exhilaration and such joy. And what I said was, I'm free. I'm free. And I could see this kind of like this little kind of a cord that went down to my body. But here's the point that's so important to me to tell you. I didn't give a rat's patootie about my body when I left it. I didn't care what you did with it. I didn't care anything about it slumping over or laying there big heap or what it did to itself. Because, baby, I was gone. I was free. It is so much joy. And the reason I'm telling you this, because it scared me afterwards, was that thing. It just didn't matter. Nothing mattered. And when I said then, I'm free, and I don't know how long this lasted, the voice said, no, you're not. A voice said, no, you're not. And then I was back in my body, kind of jerked. Jerked in my body. Immediately, I got to tell you, I'm Bonnie Corcoran again, and I'm back like this. Oh, shit. What just happened? I hope nobody saw that. I hope I didn't drool or anything, I hope nobody noticed. And I'll never tell anybody this because they'll think I'm crazy. I don't want anybody to know this. That was long before I knew anything about people having out-of-body experiences or any of that. Catholics didn't do that, I got to tell you. Those kind of things didn't happen to us. And I didn't know why that had happened to me at all. But what I did understand was the difference, because I knew it had happened. And what I understood was the difference from when you go to the other side and when you're here. How everything matters here. How if they run out of sweet and low at the, for your tea, you're in a bad mood. You know what I mean? And on the other side, none of that. And how people are so frightened about dying. So then I knew there wasn't any death. So that's when my mother came up. And she found out she was dying. She went to the hospital and found out she was dying. And I finally thought, I'm going to tell her that. I don't know how she's going to take it, but I'm going to tell her. Because my mother was like, was not like that stuff. I said, I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't hurt to die. If I could do that for you, it's so joyful. I mean, once you get up, and you're out of this, it's wonderful. All you got to do is get the other side, baby, and it's going to be good. If I could do this for you, I'd do it for you, but I can't do it for you. But I got to tell you, don't be afraid. And I told her about this. And what she said, this little mean New England Yankee woman, she went, okay, so, she said, before I came up here, she said, I couldn't sleep one night, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. And I decided, well, I'm going to go get some coffee. So I got up, and I made myself a cup of coffee, and I came and sat back on the edge of the bed, and I'm drinking the coffee. And Joe, who was her older sister by 10 years, so Joe would have been, Joe had died. But anyhow, Joe shows up. And I always thought to myself, well, if I ever saw a ghost, I'd be horrified. But I wasn't, she said, because she just smiled. She was just smiling at me. And looking at me, and she said, then she just kind of drifted out of the room. She said, then I woke up the next morning, I thought, oh, nonsense, it was a dream. But there was the coffee cup. Do you think she really came? And I said, yeah, she came to say, don't worry, little sister. I'll be here to catch you when you go. I'm going to be with you, because she knew she was dying. See, my mother didn't. And so my mother found God because of that. and wasn't afraid to die. So that was pretty neat. That's another vignette. All right, let's go further up, because what time are we at? Oh my goodness, I have no more time. I love you all very, very much, and I'm out of time, and we've had a great time. And there's lots more to say, but geez, 45 years, that's a lot to talk about.